1.
All right, good Friday evening, everybody. I'm meteorologist Tim Pandajis, joining you from the KHOU 11 studios in downtown Houston, in the Galleria area. We're watching the threat for some strong to severe storms. In fact, since we last talked, we do have a tornado watch that is up for our northern third of the viewing area. We're talking well north of Montgomery County here. Well, Montgomery County and points north, I should say. And it's up until midnight, so for about another 3 hours, that's the areas most likely to see some of these storms that do develop to have a spin on them, and they could put down a tornado or so. It's been a warm day out there today. Temperature-wise, we've seen numbers climb into the mid-80s, and still within the 9 o'clock hour, we're pretty warm. 77 at Bush, 78 at Conroe, still 80 out of Brenham, but more importantly, when you go outside this evening, it's very, very muggy. We've got dew points in the mid-70s. This is more in line with what we'd find in late August, rather than here the early part of November. And this is because of the onshore flow today. It's been a rather breezy day. We had gusts 30, 35 miles per hour off the Gulf of Mexico, transporting that tropical air mass, that unstable air mass that's still currently with us. In fact, look off to the northwest. You can see the incoming drier air behind the cold front and the squall line that's developing out ahead of it. So here's how radar looks. We've got the overlay of the tornado watch in our northern cities and counties until midnight. We've got a few isolated storms, not even really, I'd say, strong, just some flashes of lightning and claps of thunder out there over Polk County. But that's really about it. Everywhere else to the south, just some quick moving downpours. But you can see where our squall line is. Back off to the west-northwest, just beginning to push into the Bryan College Station area. And this is right in line with the timeline we were expecting, between 8 and 9 o'clock out in our northwestern cities and counties, pushing its way slowly to eventually winding up in the Houston area by around midnight. So we've still got quite some time before that line gets into Harris County and Houston. But for the time being, off to the west along 90 and Route 10, Interstate 10 there's a very strong cell here out there that's actually got a warning on it, a severe thunderstorm warning that's up for just a little while longer, but there is plenty of thunder and lightning associated with this, and also very heavy rain. It also had a hail signature just a little while ago. In fact, let's check out the lightning strikes on this. The amount of lightning strikes over the last 10 minutes, 248 lightning strikes in those areas. And you can see there's a pretty large amount. The ratio is much higher for positive strikes. That's meaning that the strikes are originating from the top of the clouds, making its way to the surface. Negative strikes are a little bit weaker. Positive strikes are a little bit stronger. There's a good healthy amount here, 244, and we've seen that number kind of increase slowly, meaning the cell itself is actually strengthening a little bit or intensifying as it pushes on off towards the east. All right, here's a loop of it over the last hour. It's not moving all that quick. It was along the I-35 corridor near San Marcos and New Braunfels, and has now pushed probably, let's put a little distance tracker on here. It's moved only about 25 miles in the last hour, so moving 25 miles per hour the entire line itself. A rather slow-moving line, but we do expect it to pick up some forward speed as we progress through the rest of the evening hours and, of course, through the overnight as well. Back home, let's get a quick check on some of these other cells that are flaring on up in Polk, north of Cleveland. Some of these have some thunder and lightning on them, and as I pause it here, I want to kind of dive into the storm itself and get a look at the velocities, and that can kind of tell us what the wind speeds are, as well as if there's any rotation that's evident from radar. And in this area here, I'll zoom in on this spot here, and we'll put the overlay of the scope on it for you to kind of show you that this area here, let me put it back on, over ACE, has a little bit of some spin. And if I put a couple areas here, let's go back. If I put a couple markings on there to indicate what that speed might be, I was clocking it earlier at around 60 miles per hour. So there certainly could be some very gusty winds in these areas. Let's see here. The bright yellow, a 64 miles per hour clocked here, but it is not warned at the current time, even though radar indicated that wind speeds could certainly surpass severe criteria. Not seeing a warning on this one right now, but we are also very far away from the radar site, and those winds are being sampled at a higher level of altitude. So, I mean, we got the radar beam coming in all the way here south of Houston from League City, trying to pinpoint winds that may or may not be making it to the surface out there. Now, what does seem to happen is when they're located, co-located over some of the areas of heaviest rain in this area, the heavy rain tends to pull those stronger winds down to the surface. So, is it possible we may be getting 40, 50 mile per hour winds verifying at the surface there? Sure. right along 145, 146 there, the ACE area, FM 943, Schwab City, over to Dolan, just to the east of Shepherd, and 59 Urbana area there. That could certainly have a little bit of some gusty winds associated with it, but again, no warning currently on it. Let's see if there's any hail signature with this. I'm not expecting one. These are rather low topped out off to the east of the center of this actual squall line. Let's go back out here and check out that squall line again. It hasn't reached our area itself just yet. It's still just off to the west, but it is moving into that warm, humid air mass, as you've seen, that's been in place for quite some time here. So here's the line. Let's put a storm track on it from Bryan all the way down to Giddings, Cistern, along I-10 there, and move it to the east at around 25 miles per hour or so. And that puts it at College Station in about 5 minutes. It's pretty much right on top of there now. Brenham area just before the top of the hour, 10 o'clock. Gonzales, 944, Navasota just before the top of the hour as well. So just moving into our far northwestern cities and counties around 10 o'clock, so 45 minutes from now or so. And at that point in time, it may very well actually be weakening a bit. We saw several other severe thunderstorm warnings to the north of where that one warning still remains. And those cells have actually weakened as they've been trying to push their way on off towards the east into the Brenham area. So that's a good sign there. Even though there's plenty of fuel, the timing at which they're moving through late in the evening into the overnight tends to weaken systems. They don't have the daytime heating to really fall into play there to add the energy as they move on into it. And you notice off to the north there near the Bryan College Station area, there's not a whole ton of lightning associated with this. In fact, the entire line all the way up through Brenham, we're looking at 63 strikes over the last 10 minutes. Not a terribly low amount, but also not extremely high. And that number, if we watch it for a little bit, it seems to kind of steady on out and not really increase, indicating a strengthening of the overall line. Have we seen any hail signatures in this line? Well, let's take a look here if there's any current hail signatures. There is one here just around the I-10 corridor here, out near the Luling area, Joliet 183. You correlate that with the legend here, and that's nickel-sized hail. If, in fact, it's reaching the ground or not, you got to account for melting as it's falling from the cloud base. Maybe marble, maybe pea-size. So nothing significant, certainly not severe criteria in terms of hail. Plenty of lightning, though, in that cell, and it is warned. So we are seeing some winds in here. In fact, let's throw the wind speed on here and clock some of these. Looking at 30 miles per hour. Not terribly impressive, and we are pulling it from the radar here out in New Braunfels, so we are relatively close to the radar site. Still only getting sampling from lower levels of the atmosphere, only 30 miles per hour or so. There could certainly be some stronger gusts in there, but not widespread damaging severe gusts, it looks at least, from this line at the moment. Let's see how long it's on here for, this severe thunderstorm warning. It's only up for about another 30 minutes, 25 minutes or so, until 9:45 this evening. Bigger picture, there's no severe weather currently in our area. We are watching this line as it tries to build its way on in and look at it over the last 2 hours. It does look to flare up a bit just as it passed to the east of I-35, but then just the last 30 minutes or so, we're really starting to see this fall apart. Now, check this out. I'm going to pause it back here and take you back. See where it pops up most clearly. You can kind of see it here. You see this line showing on up here? It's very faint, and what this is a radar signature of what we call the outflow boundary. And basically what that is this line of storms here, as it matures and then begins to decay, it actually collapses to the ground, and the downdraft or downburst associated with it hits the ground and goes out in all directions. And typically when this happens and rushes out ahead of the line, it can pick up small debris, leaves, dust, small things on the ground that gets lofted into the air. And the radar picks it up as a signature, and that can act as a pulse of energy to developing storms farther to the east of the line there. What it does is just act as a secondary cold front almost. It digs under the warm, humid air and forces it to rise from that downburst from these decaying storm cells, and can lead to more development on the eastern side. I think that's what led to the quick little uptick in activity with this, and then now it's starting to die down. We're not really seeing any evidence of the outflow persisting here as it races towards the Brenham area. So that's some good news there. Likely a continuation of it weakening as it goes a little bit farther to the east in the next couple of hours. So it was a warm day today. We had talked about that 85 degrees, well above where we should be. Look at the overnight lows. Only got down to 71. should be at 55 this time of the year, so 16 degrees above normal. Now let's time it out now and show you what this looks like as we go further out in time. Here we are at midnight. That's when I expect the line to be into around Harris County, Houston metro area. Notice it's very ragged looking. It looks to weaken a little bit more. Still certainly some gusty winds in here, especially in the areas that you see it bowing a little bit. That could certainly be gusts 30, 40, maybe 50 miles per hour. I'm not really sold on it being a severe wind threat to the south of I-10. That's much more likely farther to the north of I-10 you go, where that tornado watch is up until midnight tonight. Then going to 2:30, 3 a.m., that line makes its way to the coast and then moves offshore by 4 a.m. So by tomorrow morning, this is long gone and will no longer be a problem. It's just between now and, say, 3 a.m. that we're going to deal with the threat of some very gusty winds and some of the stronger cells. But again, moving through the middle of the night, it should not be all that much of a problem. Still ongoing threat here with a slight risk from the Storm Prediction Center, level 2 out of a 5-tiered system. To the north, it's still a level 3, and that's where we're seeing the majority of all the activity today. Damaging winds is going to be our major threat. Tornado threat, greatest north of I-10. All of that is diminishing here as we head through the next couple of hours. And rainfall, with it moving rather quickly, not expecting street flooding to be an issue really at all. We're looking at a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch total. I'm going to wrap things up here quickly and show you again radar and just get a quick little synopsis of what's happening, where that line is located. Just moving into the Bryan College Station area, only one active severe thunderstorm warning associated with this, and that's where we're also seeing the most lightning. This is along I-10 to the west of LaGrange, Schulenburg area, Luling, Lockhart, Delphi, all seeing very heavy rain here, and of course lots of lightning. The lightning tracker on this up under 200 strikes in the last 2 hours. So that's the most intense cell that we have right now. In our area itself, we've had a few very isolated downpours, most of which is now up into Polk County and racing off to the north. This has had some lightning and thunder with it, but nothing strong, nothing severe, no warnings at the time. That red shading in our northern third is that tornado watch until midnight tonight. I wouldn't doubt if this is allowed to, or this is canceled before then, as the threat looks to really be diminishing. But that's the latest there on that line, that squall line that'll push its way into the Houston metro area by around midnight tonight. We're going to be on the TV side, myself and Kim Castro, on the news at 10, tracking this line with you, and we'll be with you through the overnight as well until it clears the metro area. Until then, we'll see you on the TV side in just about 30 minutes from now.